Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So, I know I don't normally do anything on Friday, but I wanted to pick up where I left off yesterday. Um, we were talking about Alfred Kinsey and who he was, and we talked about we're reading Dr. Judith Reisman's book, "Stolen Honor, Stolen Innocence," and in reading that, she has dedicated her life to exposing this darkness. So I want us to understand, because I wonder how many people out there actually wonder where their comprehensive sex education that's being put in place in your school curriculum, where it really comes from, because it comes from a really dark place, a very perverse, a very satanic, a very evil, wicked place. And it comes from this place all in the name of science. So I'm just going to pick up not right where I left off. We're going to look at Alfred Kinsey, his preference for boys. So we learned yesterday how shy he is or was around women, right? Well, as shy as he was around women, Kinsey was much at home with young boys. He preferred company in both outdoor and indoor settings. He preferred young boys' company, that is. Here's a surprise. Alfred Kinsey joined the Boy Scouts at about age 17. And later, as a married man, he continued to wear his Boy Scout uniform. He continued to take boys on nature hikes and the like. And he continued sleeping alongside them in tents. The Boy Scout movement, which was founded in Great Britain in 1907, has helped to instill such character traits as honesty, courage, tenacity, cooperation, and devotion to God and country in tens of millions of boys worldwide. Additional millions, of devoted men has served as leaders in the Boy Scouts of America, founded in 1910. Providing young scouts with positive role models and rewarding experiences. Sadly, however, scouting has too often been exploited by deviants with less honorable objectives in mind. I'm going to take this moment to give a quick memory, a quick story, testimony of when I was of the world. It was just before I started getting really sick. It was after I got out of prison and I was running around and adding more sins to my long list. I remember stopping at a rest stop in Connecticut. And outside the rest stop, it was nighttime and it was winter because it was cold. Outside the rest stop was a table with coffee and donuts and a little tent. And it was the Boy Scouts of America. It was about 2 or 3 young boys in their uniforms. And then there were 2 adult males with them. They were giving away free coffee and donuts to anyone traveling. So I went in to the rest stop using the bathroom, and I went to the rest stop. I stopped at every single rest stop I could back then to cruise, to look for anonymous sex with strangers. Okay. So I went into the rest stop. I'm using the bathroom. I'm at the urinal, and one of the older men come in and stands next to me and gives me the sign or the eye or the look, whatever it was. And I remember when we were messing around, I said to him something to the effect of him being a scout leader. And he told me how pleasurable it was to go on overnights with the scouts. And that always stuck in my mind. Because this wasn't an openly homosexual male. This was probably a father. Probably, maybe even the father of one of the boys. But deviant nonetheless. So I want us to understand that it's been going on for way longer. But now they're not just trying to molest and rape boys in tents. Now they want to rape your children and your grandchildren's mind in the classroom in school for comprehensive sex education. Claiming that Kinsey's obsession with boys was entirely platonic, Pomeroy and Christensen insist that he led a largely sexless life. Evidence from Kinsey's own writings, however, raised serious questions about his sexual orientation long before publication of Jones's Alfred C. Kinsey confirmed his deviancy. Even in college, he opted for the companionship of youths and boys. Fellow counselor describes Kinsey, then age 21, at the Newark, New Jersey YMCA. He said his tent with his nature library, in quotes, nature library, well, you'll find out what that meant, of a dozen volumes was a rendezvous for dozens of campers during the day and well into the night. Even after taps had sounded and we were supposedly tucked in, the boys loved Alfred Kinsey, and couldn't get enough of him. He had a merry eye, a wide smile, and a hearty laugh. Always ready for the latest camp prank, he was just as ready to pitch in and help any kid in trouble. Unlike most of us, Kinsey had experience at several other camps also, was an active leader in Boy Scout work, often wore his Boy Scout uniform. A camp history refers to war games in 1914 under Field Marshal Alfred Kinsey. While Kinsey was a student at Bowdoin, he was by far the greatest specialist in that group of young men. He was thoroughly enjoyed as a companion by everyone. Note, Pomeroy places nature library in quotation marks. People in the 1920s would have understood this to mean that Kinsey collected nature or nudist magazines with drawings and photographs of nude youths and adults. Commenting on the 1920s nudist movement, including the Manifesto of Nudism, Christopher Stephen writes in Secret and Forbidden, 1966 book, he says, the most important document in the first years of nudism is the manifesto published by Professor George Herman. It read, the problem of nudity, nude social life, was always the battleground of prudish Pharisees and the honest children of nature, the subject of constant quarrels between senile hypocrites and the fresh young joy of beauty. Here's a picture of Alfred Kinsey with his young charges as a counselor at one of the camps. The founder of the nudist or physical culture movement was Dr. Heinrich Puder. He published the pamphlet Naked Humanity, Jubilant Future in 1893, followed by a monthly nudist journal entitled Strength and Beauty. Critics of the movement feared that it would intimately weaken nations by promoting the Greek vice. Nevertheless, fully 1/3 of German youth prior to Hitler were staunch supporters. Advocates of nudism perceived it to be a physical expression of the modern spirit, free of the dark influences which cause the human body to be called ugly or immoral. They advocated the viewing of the opposite sex with clear eyes and no shameful or hidden thoughts. Some psychologists would argue that this may reveal the origin of Kinsey's nudist nature pornography collection at Indiana University, discussed further on. Biographer James Jones confirms that Kinsey received nudist magazines at the family home, certainly an interest in conflict with his public conservative persona. Years later, Kinsey would write a letter to an old scouting friend, perhaps one of the boys with whom he shared his nudist magazines, or to whom he devoted so much attention during his adolescent, college, postgraduate, and even married years. Kinsey wrote to this boy. He said, we did have good times together. We did have good times together. And you must understand, from that scout troop, I began to learn some of the things that made it possible for me to do some of the research that we are now engaged in. Clearly, Kinsey was not referring to wasp collecting, but to the sexual research and experimentation that would eventually result in publication of Male. According to Pomeroy, Kinsey began to leave scouting and the sexually sterile world of his boyhood behind him when he graduated from high school. Not mentioned is Kinsey's continuing close association with boys through his leadership activities as above during his college years at Bowdoin and in the Bethany Boys Club. According to Christensen, him being in the Bethany's Boys Club was a major activity during his 3 years of postgraduate studies, was at the Bethany Boys Club at the local Bethany Methodist Episcopal Church. There were Saturday hikes and weekend overnight camping trips with Kinsey. Wow. Oh, man. Indeed, Kinsey so enjoyed the scouting atmosphere that he continued to lead a summer camp program after he was married. He and his wife, Clara, once examined property with the thought of establishing a boys' camp of their own. Though nothing came of it, Kinsey did spend a month at Camp Winona in Maine, alone, since Clara now had 2 children. Here's Kinsey with Bethany Boys Club Sunday school class. In Male, Kinsey claims that children are sexual from birth. Comprehensive sex education, y'all. Where does it come from? Kinsey claims that children are sexual from birth. He also argued that most American boys engage in some form of sexual activity with other boys, that adolescent homosexuality is a common phenomenon, and that males reach their sexual peak as teenagers. I'm going to repeat that because I posed a question in the beginning of the show and in my post on social media. Do you ever wonder where your comprehensive sex education, your CSE, stems from? And I answered it. It stems from, it's all in the name of science, but it stems from a very dark, perverse place. Kinsey claims that children are sexual from birth. Kinsey argued that most American boys engage in some form of sexual activity with other boys, that adolescent homosexuality is a common phenomenon, and that males reach their sexual peak as teenagers. True or false, it is not unreasonable to speculate that Kinsey observed at least some sexual activity among the many boys with whom he had been closely associated in scouting and boys' club. But was Kinsey himself a participant, a pederast, a man who desires sex with boys? Neither he nor his friendly biographers ever broached that matter. However, let me just say this. I looked at a whole lot of pictures of Kinsey last night. And I don't know if you can see the way he's looking down at this particular boy. But in almost every picture that I observed, when there were boys in the picture, he was very close and looking at one specific in the group a certain way. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, that might not be anything. Well, maybe if you don't know the look. Or maybe if you've never looked at a boy that way. But I'm trying to tell you right now that I know the look. And it's a very perverse look. JR, you want to add something? I know you're writing.
Yeah, he either abused them or drove the getaway car. I guess is the best way to say that. He encouraged that activity or did it on his own.
Before you came in, we read the part where he had nudist magazines in his tent at camp. He was a Boy Scout leader, of course, and the boys knew where to go, day or night.
Yeah.
to read those with him.
Why am I laughing?
I know, because it's not a surprise, right?
Yeah.
And because this is where there are people that are trying to fight for comprehensive sex education to be put in place in their children's school. And they really don't have a clue of where it comes from and what it leads to and what it's meant to accomplish. Comprehensive sex education is meant to sexualize your child and the children that are engaging or enduring those classes. It's not educational. It's meant to indoctrinate them and to sexualize them and to have them experimenting with one another. For Alfred Kinsey to say, and this is where comprehensive sex education comes from, so you know that this is really where it comes from, because you know it's part of the CSE program, that children are sexual from birth. That is part of the comprehensive sex education program. That is part of what they teach. He also argued that most American boys engage in some form of sexual activity with other boys, and that adolescent homosexuality is a common phenomenon that is part of comprehensive sex education, and that males reach their peak at their sexual peak as teenagers. That is part of comprehensive sexual education, as is masturbation being normal, which we saw those videos the other day, as is watching pornography being normal. We saw those videos the other day. They are part of comprehensive sex education program. And if people don't wake the heck up, then guess what? Then your children are going to be running around, having abortions, getting pregnant, spreading disease, and so sexually confused that they're going to make themselves victims for any grown man or woman that comes along and wants to take them on a trip or maybe camp out with them. And hey, guess what? I got a nice little nudist library. I got some magazines. You want to look at my magazines? You already know that it's normal for boys to have sex with boys. It's normal to try it. So how about we try it? That's exactly what's going to come about from all of this. It's not about just the children. It's about those that are teaching the children and those that want the children taught this. A report by Patrick Boyle, author of Scouts Honor Sexual Abuse in America's Most Trusted Institution. He describes Kinsey's role in removing a warning about masturbation from the Scout Handbook. According to Boyle, an early edition of the handbook advised Scoutmasters, because boys of scouting age are naturally curious about sex, you may discover or hear about incidents of sexual experimentation among troop members. Incidents of sexual experimentation call for a private and thorough investigation and frank discussion with those involved. Boyle recalls Kinsey's response when the BSA, Boy Scouts of America, sought his advice for updating the manual in 1947. Our years of research have failed to disclose any clear-cut cases of harm resulting from masturbation, although we have thousands of cases of boys who have had years of their lives ruined by worry over masturbation. We should be glad to serve wherever the Boy Scouts can use factual material. The Boy Scouts of America later dropped the discussion of masturbation from its handbook. Kinsey backed that move, and that move increased the vulnerability of young scouts to sexual abuse by older peers and adult pederasts. Some accounts claim that Kinsey attended church regularly as a child and remained devout until he entered college. But an incident involving masturbation was apparently a turning point in his life. He often described to others how a college classmate obsessed with masturbation had sought his help. Kinsey claimed that he accompanied the fellow to his room, knelt, and prayed that the lad would receive strength to stop masturbating. However, after reviewing Kinsey's personal diaries and letters at the Kinsey Institute, Jones concluded that it was not a friend who was plagued by the impulse to masturbate, but Kinsey himself. Kinsey prayed, asking God to forgive him and to give him the strength not to sin again. The Boy Scout manual, along with many doctors and moral instructors, advised boys to take cold showers to improve their health and to take their minds off of sex. Kinsey took a cold shower every morning, a practice he continued for life, but neither prayer nor cold showers enabled him to stop masturbating. As a result, Kinsey was consumed by guilt. Kinsey's interest in scouting appears to have been similar to that of the movement's founder, Sir Robert Baden-Powell. Like Baden-Powell, Kinsey married relatively late for his time, age 26, and seemed obsessed with nude males. These and other similarities to Baden-Powell, who is known to have collected nature photographs of young boys engaged in such activities as skinny dipping, is both noteworthy and disturbing. How much sense does it make? How much sense does it make that the man who started Boy Scouts of America would be a pederast? That's what they do. At least that's what they did way back when it wasn't normal or natural for boys to engage in sex with each other, when it wasn't normal or natural to fondle yourself and masturbate. Those who had those types of dark desires got into jobs or positions where they could be with a bunch of young boys. Sadly, another fact is that grown women that had those desires for little boys and for little girls started daycare services. Not all, but some of the stories that I've heard as testimonies, I should say, back up the fact that men who had those desires became scoutmasters, they became troop leaders, they got jobs as gym teachers. Wherever the swim club, the YMCA, wherever boys could be close, that's where they were. And then sadly, that's what happened with a lot of the women who were also pederasts, which is something we don't really hear much about. But let me just state this we're going to come to a close. I'm going to give JR a few minutes to say whatever he. I don't know if a few minutes would be enough after what I just read, but I just wanted to say this. So NAMBLA, the North American Man Boy Love Association, when the LGBT movement when they decided on creating their agenda, the overhauling of straight America, how to desensitize America to homosexuality. When they created that agenda, they specifically and publicly said, if you are a known pederast, and they even named NAMBLA, North American Man Boy Love Association. If you are a known pederast, we, meaning the LGBT movement itself, will have to disassociate with you for now, because there's no way that the LGBT will be seen as victims if we're hanging out with known pederasts. So now that America has been desensitized, right, for, gosh, at least 15 years now, at least, minimal, probably 20, 25 years, then NAMBLA came back into picture after the agenda was completed. But it's not just North American Man Boy Love Association anymore, right? And so now they have MAPS, MAPS, Minor Attracted Persons. So minor attracted persons covers men and or women with boys and or girls. So minor attracted person covers everybody. The mother-son incest. There's different what they call fetishes in the dark world. And fetishes cover everything from foot fetishes to worshiping body parts, to wrapping yourself up in plastic and suffocating yourself until you pass out, to being beat up, bondage, discipline, sadomasochism, S&M, B&D, as well as some fetishes called role play. And in the role play fetish, two people or however many people are engaging take on a role and they play the part. Like some role play is some people want somebody to break into their home and rape them. So that's role play. Part of role play, what came out of role play, and this was even back in my younger years, my late teens and 20s, as I remember being a prostitute, you did a lot of role playing because that's what they requested. Um, Part of what came out of the role play fetish is daddy, son, uncle, nephew, mommy and son, or mommy, daughter, as well as auntie, the auntie fetish. The auntie fetish just meant an older woman with a young child. Dad's son, of course, you know what that is. Um, an older man with a young boy, and he pretends the young boy is his son, or the young boy pretends that he's the father. Um, so all these dark fetishes, they all stem from not just from Alfred Kinsey. Okay, they don't stem from Alfred Kinsey because what infected Alfred Kinsey was around long before Alfred Kinsey. Okay. However, Alfred Kinsey was an advocate, an agent of the darkness, and he molested probably thousands of boys and who knows how many little girls, all in the name of either love and or science. And it's all of Alfred Kinsey's research that comprehensive sex education uses as its foundation. Now, I don't know about anybody else, and I don't have any children. But if I did, I would be damned if near one of them would be involved in anything that came from such a warped, demented, deviant mind. Come on in here, JR.
I I want to clarify something, and I'll speak for you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. You and I are not investing the time today to entertain or to promote fear porn. That's not what we're here about.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to assist. We are both doers. We understand that education is part of the process, and that's what you're doing here, David, and that's what I do with the Natural Family Foundation, and what a lot of others do. But if we don't act on the information we have, then how are we really helping? And we're hoping, at least I'm hoping, that with the information you're giving out is going to motivate somebody, maybe through fear, or maybe just outrage, that they will actually do something.
I mean, that's the key, right? The key is to not instill fear because that's not of God, right? So
Yeah.
it's not to instill fear. It is to expose the darkness and create an outrage because people should be outraged right now. People should be completely they should be marching down to the school buildings, kicking the doors in. They should be down at their town halls, at all of their little town meetings, at all of the school board meetings, all the library meetings, and they should all be going in with not with pitchforks and torches, although that's what this would definitely be appropriate for this, but going in there and saying, not near one of our children will ever come back into this building until you get rid of this and you get rid of this and you change this, because we will not accept it anymore. But the sad thing is that would mean that most of the parents wouldn't have a daytime babysitter or an after school babysitter right? That's what it comes down to. And it's a real sad place in our day and age when parents don't want to be parents. When fathers and mothers don't want to be fathers and mothers. And when they start accepting the fact that their children don't even want to be their children.
And please don't blame others. That folks that are doing your job that you should be doing and they're not doing it right, don't blame them.
Mm-hmm.
And don't complain about David and I for trying. We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but at least we're out there swinging. And yeah, we're going to lose a few battles, but we're going to learn from that. And we're going to share that information with you. David, I love you and appreciate you. I mean, you're investing a lot of time and resources in what you're doing here. And you know from experience what you're talking about. You know, I was thinking about what you were talking about today and how they're trying to influence students sexually. You know, if you and I were in high school right now, we'd probably be senior class presidents. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
we're leaders in our field.
Yeah, that's true. And
I'm gonna leave you with that.
it's just, I don't care about like time, or anything like that. I mean, and I know you don't either. It's because we've got nothing but time, right? We got
Yeah.
we got nothing but time to do whatever we're supposed to do within the minutes that we have left. And Chance, I'm sorry that I don't have a PDF of a presentation on this. Um, that we could email you, but that's a good idea, maybe to try to put some type of presentation together, some type of outline together, But so I'm asking everybody that's listening and watching to email your ideas of what that type of presentation would look like. Because we need a whole bunch of people to put in a whole bunch of input. Because that's the whole purpose of me trying to get other speakers to come on as a panel of speakers as often as possible, because we all have different points of view, but the same goal. And because of all the different points of view, it's a lot easier for people to say, well, I agree with that. I don't like the way he says that. I'm a little direct sometimes. And sometimes I'm a little bold and in your face, just a little bit sometimes. But it's how it's supposed to be, because I just want people to wake the heck up and start seeing what is after their children and what is after. And if, oh, well, I don't have any kids. Well, so what? Does anybody in your family have kids? You have any nieces, nephews, grandchildren? Do your neighbors have kids? I mean, you know what? I don't have any dependents, but guess what? I just made 40 bag lunches this morning, and I'm going back out there today to walk through the woods and trudge through the woods to hand out bag lunches because people don't have, and they're hungry. Okay, but I don't have any dependents. So I guess I could just sit back, put my feet up on my coffee table, and turn on the programming. I don't have any dependents. I don't have any kids. What am I doing right now? Why am I even, what am I doing? Because it's, oh, wow, maybe it's not about me. How about that? What if it is about those people and those kids? What if it's all about them? How about that? I'm going to leave you with that. I want to thank you, JR, once again for coming in and dedicating your time and joining us. That's JR, Jim Harrison of the naturalfamilystrong.com, naturalfamilystrong.com. And Lord willing, see you sometime over the weekend. But more than likely Monday, but who knows? Um, I really feel like I don't want to stop with this book. So maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, who knows? Till the next time, peace.